Hello everyone, this is EB the Original Master here, and I am recording this video through my phone, so if the angle looks a little bit weird, I apologize. I tried everything I could to make sure the angle looks the best it can, but this is all I got. And welcome to my third and final Powerpuff Girls related video that I will be producing for this channel, and this is going to be my review on the Powerpuff Girls movie, in which I've watched on September 30th of 2022 on a Friday, as I was currently at the time binging the whole original show. Now, this is my first time watching this movie, and I did see reviews of this movie after I finished binging the series from a channel by the name of Steve Reviews. And yeah, so this is going to be my opinions on the movie to give you guys what I thought about it and a brief synopsis of the plot and everything. So the Powerpuff Girls movie was released on July 3rd, 2002, and it was the first ever theatrical movie based off of a Cartoon Network property, according to Steve Reviews, which was the guy who reviewed the Powerpuff Girls movie, which I've watched. This is Cartoon Network's first theatrical movie and their last theatrical movie for a while, is because that, according to reviews of this film, it bombed at the box office. Yeah, this was a box office bomb for Cartoon Network, vowing them to not make another theatrical movie based off of their properties until 2018, with the release of that Teen Titans Go to the Movies, which was Cartoon Network's latest movie released in theaters based off of one of their shows. But the Powerpuff Girls movie was one of their first ones. So this movie is basically an origin story of how the Powerpuff Girls came to be, according to Craig McCracken, who is the creator of the show. Yeah, so this is a origin story of how the Powerpuff Girls were created, how they became superheroes and whatnot. And yeah, so in my opinion, I really didn't mind the story at all. Is because I think it was really interesting having an origin story. Is because most movies tackle origin stories, and I really didn't mind it that much with this movie. Is because I kind of found the origin story to be a little bit interesting, in my opinion. So the professor, Professor Utonium, he was at a grocery store getting ingredients so he could create the perfect little girl, which is basically based off of the theme song of the Powerpuff Girls. So we see Professor Utonium at the grocery store buying ingredients so he could make the perfect little girl. And he has a lab monkey, which we will all know later in the series is how... Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm trying to read this. I'm trying to give out the best description as I can. So as I was saying, he has a lab monkey, which we all know will turn into the villainous Mojo Jojo, who is the main villain of the Powerpuff Girls, who is this chimpanzee with a cape, a dome for a head, and whatnot. And yeah, so the lab monkey ended up turning into Mojo Jojo later on in the film. But yeah, so the Powerpuff Girls are created. Of course, the professor gives them names. Bubbles, Blossom, and Buttercup. Yeah, those are the name of the Powerpuff Girls. So he basically named the characters based off of their personalities and whatnot. So, yeah, so throughout the movie, we get to see the Powerpuff Girls interacting with Professor Utonium, like Professor Utonium making sure that they get things because they were created. He wanted to reward them with gifts and whatnot. So he goes to the store basically and buys them gifts because he's trying to be a perfect father. And yeah, so we get these moments in the movie where we get to see the girls interacting with Professor Utonium, like them making breakfast. We get a scene of them making a bedroom for them to sleep in. Like there's literally a part of the movie where they freaking use their heat vision to like create these windows in the upper part of the professor's home. And yeah, so moving on through this plot of this movie, there's also other scenes in this movie where we get to see other characters of the Powerpuff Girls, like Miss Keene, who is the teacher of the Powerpuff Girls. They attend school in this film, where they get to know the teacher, they get to know the students. In fact, one of the recurring students in the Powerpuff Girls is the name of Mitch Michelson, who I actually found out that he was voiced by Tom Kenny, who is also the voice of the narrator, the mayor. Yeah, he voices a lot of characters in the show, and I had no idea that Tom Kenny voiced Mitch Michelson, who is one of the recurring students of the Powerpuff Girls. And he's actually a really interesting character because he serves as the bully character, and he has this Popeye the Sailor Man's voice. And I found that really funny is because when I was watching the original series back a few months ago, there was an episode in season 3 called Getting Twiggy with It. And there was a scene in that episode where Mitch Michelson was laughing and it kind of sounded like Popeye the Sailor Man's laugh, and I found that to be pretty funny. But I'm going way ahead of myself here. But yeah, so yeah, the girls attend school, they play a game of tag, and this is where one of the criticisms that I've seen many people brought up in the reviews that I've seen of this movie is that they said that the tag scene lasted a very long time, and I can agree with that, but I honestly didn't mind the scene all that much, just because I actually found the scene of the girls playing tag all throughout Townsville to be pretty hilarious, because we get to see them using their powers and whatnot. That's when we all noticed that the girls have superpowers, because the Chemical X, if you guys didn't recall from the theme song, Chemical X was the 4th ingredient that the professor accidentally added, which gave the girls superpowers and whatnot. So the girls basically play a game of tag, and they play it all throughout Townsville, destroying the city and whatnot. And there's actually a scene in the movie where the mayor and Miss Bellum was basically walking around and whatnot, and we get to see a scene where the mayor gets a pickle, because that's his obsession. Yes, that's one of his obsessions, that he likes to eat pickles throughout the whole show and whatnot. So yeah. So basically, everyone in Townsville tries to run the professor out, because the Powerpuff Girls becoming superheroes and whatnot, because of their powers and whatnot, it caused trouble all throughout Townsville. So the professor gets framed, he goes to jail, and we get to see the girls all alone. So we also get to see the first appearance of the Green Gang, which are these green character skin teenage characters who are like a gang, and they basically appear in the movie later on, and the girls get saved by Mojo Jojo. So Mojo Jojo appears later in the film, where he tells the girls his scheme, and so he basically manipulates them to doing something for him, so the girls accepts the favor, and then he basically makes a monkey empire by basically taking them to the zoo, and then he basically uses these microchips to turn all the chimpanzees and the monkeys at the zoo into his subjects and whatnot, and he becomes a greater evil and tries to rule over Townsville. So that's the big climax of the movie, is where Mojo Jojo basically becomes this giant psychotic monkey because of the Chemical X, and he goes around Townsville causing trouble. There's another scene in the movie where the girls basically flees because the professor didn't see them as perfect girls and whatnot, so they fly into outer space. We get to see the girls on this planet or some type of building structure or something up in the middle of space. Bubbles being very sensitive, she starts crying, and yeah, that was very weird. In fact, when I was watching this movie, it was actually given to me from Luke V. Shout outs to him. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but during the scene of the girls up in space, you can actually hear the frequency noises of Bubbles screaming and crying, because it kind of has that frequency sound, if you guys know what I mean. You know, when you like scream really loudly, you can hear the sound waves and whatnot. I don't know if that was intentional or the video file that he sent, but I actually heard that when I was watching that scene. But overall, so basically, Mojo Jojo takes over Townsville, and he basically rules over the city, to where he kidnaps the Powerpuff Girls and takes them up to the top of the Townsville Hall Center, and that's where the girls basically beats up Mojo Jojo, all of the monkey subjects and whatnot, and everyone lived happily ever after, and that's where the narrator gives them the name as the Powerpuff Girls, and that was the movie as a whole. So overall, the Powerpuff Girls movie was pretty good in my opinion. I really didn't mind the whole tag sequence. I actually found that scene to be really interesting in my opinion, seeing all the action scenes and whatnot. And I did like the story of it being an origin story of how the girls were created and getting to know everyone in Townsville and whatnot. I also noticed a thing that Steve Reviews brought up. He also brought up that this movie was the debut of Mojo Jojo's redesign, where his ears are a lot more pointier than round in the earlier seasons. I didn't notice that until he brought it up, because when I was binging the series, I really didn't pay much attention to the character designs differences from the earlier seasons to the later seasons. All I noticed is that they switched over to digital animation in the later seasons. That's the only difference I noticed. I didn't pay much attention to the designs of the girls. I mean, I kind of did, because in the later seasons, the girls are a lot more shorter and their heads are a lot more bigger, unlike their designs in the first 4 seasons. But yeah, overall, this movie was pretty good in my opinion. It was really fun, and I gave it a 9 out of 10 when I watched it. So overall, that is my review on the Powerpuff Girls movie. If you have seen this movie, let me know in the comments below if you plan on asking or plan on giving out your thoughts of the movie. But yeah, if you've seen this movie, what are your thoughts of it? In my opinion, I thought this movie was pretty decent, and it was pretty fun. So yeah, that was my review on the Powerpuff Girls movie. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time with more videos in the future.